Hey everybody, Little Witch on the Prairie here. We're going to be talking about the August mood board that I've released called Hot Ghoul Summer. Each month I create a mood board and I like to use it as a representation of the direction I'm going with my practice and the shop. It's also great to get a visual on the different aspects of the land during each month so that you can see all the different changes that the landscape will make. My mood board for August depicts two different demons, demonesses, ghoulish fiends, and a rattlesnake, some corn, and a big sunflower as the sun overhead. The sky is a beautiful fuchsia pink with sparkles. Of course, I am the queen of sparkles. So you can find my mood board on my website in my blog, and if you subscribe, you'll be notified as soon as a new mood board or blog post pops up. So please head over and check out my website in order to be able to see what I'm doing each month before my videos come out. So the first ghoul I would like to be talking about is the Południca, or also known as the Noon Wraith or Lady Midday. Noon actually refers to the noon or the Noon Wraith, and she comes from Slavic folklore. She is a maiden who died before her time, so she represents that maiden archetype, and they say it's a maiden who died right before or right after her wedding, when traditionally she would appear very disgusting and horrifying, and you would be able to essentially see the rotting flesh from her bones. The more the myth has been discovered and talked about, the more beautiful the depictions have become of her. Either one is fine. Well, when the Południca would come out, would be during the noontime hours, the dust devils you see out on the open prairie are representations of her. That's one of her forms. Not only could she be found in fields, but a lot of times she could be found on the open dirt roads as well. So she would attack farmers, and she would also sometimes steal children who were out during this time. And it's true even in my grandfather's day that all the farmers would come in, eat their noontime meal called dinner, and then they would rest for several hours before going back out into the fields. The Południca essentially represents heat stroke. She can cause headache, confusion, fainting, falls, broken bones, and even death. She's usually depicted in a white gown with a flower crown and a large stick or a scythe in her hands. She will attack her victims with questions first, and if you're able to solve her riddles, a lot of times she will leave you alone. And as the myth has developed, people say that she only really attacks the farmers who don't respect the land. So that would be like an arm of the divine law in that it would balance the scales of justice. So that's something to keep in mind when working with her. For her this month, I created a series of 5 bottles. I'm keeping one for myself, and there are 4 available. I'll talk to you about them now. So this is one of the bottles. Each bottle is completely unique. It does feature the same piece of artwork of the Noon Wraith attacking the farmer. She's in white with her flower crown and her scythe overhead. I went out and I collected wheat heads as well as dirt from a freshly harvested field, all while paying my proper respects to her. I left her a blood sacrifice and asked that she would imbue my collection with her energy. These bottles are open, so you can wrap people's pictures up, stick them inside for her, or a situation or a name and a birth date and that sort of a thing. The Noon Wraiths are very powerful entities, and I would not conjure them if you cannot banish them. So this is for the experienced worker. This is not something to play with. People actually get hurt. When I called on her to help me with a situation that needed some justice to it, she ended up breaking a bone of somebody that was in my way. So do not conjure what you cannot banish, because that is a big deal. And she needs to be approached with respect and a blood sacrifice. So if you don't have either of those two things, well, beware. The other demoness, as it were, is a very famous picture, and many people think that it depicts Lilith. It's a Waterhouse painting, and it's this beautiful naked woman with a serpent wrapping around her. It's actually a picture of Eve. So in ancient lore, Lilith was first mentioned in Babylonian texts as a winged female demon. Now, in ancient times, demon or daemon were viewed a little bit differently than the Christian outlook of demons. So she may or may not be evil, although in Isaiah 34:14, she is described as being a demoness of the wilderness. Still doesn't exactly say evil to me. Now, I read a book, and it's by one of my favorite authors called The Soul of Lilith by Marie Corelli. You're going to be able to find this book on Kindle for very cheap. A hard copy is going to be very hard to come by and very pricey, but this book is well worth the read. In the end of the book, Corelli really goes into the mythology surrounding Lilith. According to Corelli, Lilith is not human. She cannot be tainted by human sin. And if you look at Eve, well, Eve was tainted by sin, and she did cause the downfall of man. She essentially committed the first sin. So when people think of Eve as being good, I would actually say that's probably not true. Lilith, I think, gets a bad rap because she is sovereign, she is complete, she is whole. She needs no master to rule over her because she is not human. And in ancient times, all the way to present day, that's not usually an accepted view, especially for the role of women. Women are to be subservient to men in a lot of different ideologies. I don't agree with that. I think women can be just as sovereign as men. In fact, the world needs more sovereign individuals in order to come out of this darkness that we are in. So I have called on Lilith to help bring back the air of sovereignty for the feminine divine. And so I would say that the mythology of Lilith is sort of that as above, so below mirror effect. I think that Lilith and Eve kind of go together. They are mirror opposites of each other. One is not human, therefore cannot have committed sin. The other is of the earth and did commit the very first sin according to the lore. So the bottle I have created for Lilith, it's a dark amber bottle, and if you shine the light on it right, the picture inside will illuminate. And it is that same picture that is featured in the mood board of Eve wrapped in the snake. So you could use both sides of Lilith however you decide to approach her, and you can use her to her own end. This bottle features the shed of a prairie rattlesnake that I was able to acquire from tanning a rattlesnake. It was just before it was shed, so it was easy to pull apart. And I have wrapped this beautiful snake chain around it, and of course it features my very unique glitter. This bottle was started last year during the Venus retrograde, at the point in time where Venus took on that Lilith aspect, and essentially the astrology said it was when she ascended the throne of hell. Because Lilith is sovereign, she could ascend a throne that way. So if this bottle is something that you are very drawn to, I would snatch it up. There's not going to be any more like this. This is incredibly one of a kind, and the astrology that's paired with is very powerful and very potent. And I did some very powerful and very potent things with this bottle as I created it, and I am now reaping the reward of that. So I'm passing this along to somebody else who feels like she may be the sovereign queen ruler of hell. And good luck to you. This and the other collection will be linked below, and also my blog. So be sure and sign up for that so you can see all of these different things as they come out. The other thing on the mood board that I'd like to talk about is the sunflower as the sun in the sky. Many people think of the sun as being warm, nourishing, creating fertility, and all of that is very true. And so sunflowers represent that energy. When you grow sunflowers commercially, many people might not know this, but I do. If they do not get enough rain, their taproot will go very far down into the topsoil, and it will absorb all of the moisture in the soil, essentially draining it and scorching the earth. It literally leaves a barren wasteland. And if you think about the sun, and if there's not enough rain and you only just have that sun hitting the area, eventually it will scorch everything in its path. So the energy of the sun can be destructive, but it can also be very nourishing and create abundance. So those are dual aspects of the sunflower as well. In hoodoo, there is a practice that they do where they take sunflower petals, they put them in a carrier oil, let them fuse for a few weeks, then they'll set them out in the sun, let it absorb solar energy, and then it can be used in any ritual that needs solar energy. And that's something you can easily do at home anytime you'd like. One really fun thing you could do this month, we all know I love different types of bathing, would be to take sunflower petals and put them in your bath water along with other solar herbs if you wanted, and oils, and create a solar bath. This is the perfect time for solar bathing as well. So get out there and absorb the rays and get your fill of vitamin D. Also, on my mood board depicts a prairie rattlesnake ready to strike. Native Americans viewed the rattlesnake very negatively, and that's to be expected because, you know, if you were bit by a snake, especially in ancient times, you were pretty much in trouble. So it's no wonder that they viewed this animal in all of the lore as being more negative. Venomous snakes in general tend to have multifaceted powers. They have regeneration and healing as well. And there's many different lore about different snakes, like the world serpent, for instance, in Norse mythology. So during August and all the way through September, snakes tend to be very pregnant right now, and they're going to be, you know, reproducing. They need more solar energy during this time, and so when you're out driving the backcountry roads, you're going to see snakes sunning themselves. And a lot of them get run over just because there's so many of them. Some highways just get covered until the middle of September. And it's just these mama snakes absorbing that solar energy, trying to stay warm so they can procreate properly. And I personally love rattlesnakes. I think they're very cool. So I love to be able to see them. Also with the land this month, the corn is going to grow to its tallest height, usually on the center pivots. That's 12 to 15 feet high. Dryland corn can be like 6 to 12 feet, sometimes smaller depending on the variety. But right now, out in the country, when you drive down the dirt roads, it's like a huge, giant green jungle of corn. It's literally a Midwest jungle. If you know the Midwest jungle, you know what I'm talking about. So all the fields are going to be very green until September, then they'll start to turn into their golden color. But I absolutely love this time of year with walking through giant cornfields, and especially on a center pivot. You shouldn't really walk out in the fields when they're on a center pivot because there's chemicals in the water, but walking very close to it, you can feel a cool breeze, like a form of air conditioning on the hot summer days. So the pink of the sky on my mood board represents the cactus blossom, which is the scent for all of my creations this month. And the cactus blossoms usually blossom in May to June, but I just was really drawn to the scent of them for this month. It's very feminine, but it also gets ya. So it's got that ghoulish aspect. Those beautiful cactus blossoms smell so good, they'll lure you in with their scent, but if you're not careful, you're gonna get a glow kid or a spike stuck in you, and that's very painful and irritating. So cactuses can be very attractive, but they can also be very repelling and very protective, and it's got that ghoul energy into it. I have curated a playlist this month, and it's featuring very strong women, very strong vocals with very strong songs, and all very, very feminine. We've got Blondie to Joan Jett to Miranda Lambert, Gwen Stefani, Aretha Franklin, some really very powerful, heavy-hitting female vocals this month. Whenever I'm doing any witchcraft for the month, I throw on my playlist. It gets me right in the mood. I'm connecting with the energy that we're working with, and I get to work. If I'm ever feeling down during the month, I'll put on my playlist and I'll get my head right. You can find my playlist here on my YouTube channel under the August playlist section. I also have it available on Amazon Music and Spotify. Those will also be linked below. So I hope that you have enjoyed learning about August on the Prairie, as well as all the different aspects of my shop that I'm working with this month. And if you're interested in my collections, please check out the links below, and make sure that you subscribe to my videos as well as my website so that you can get first looks at new items and my mood board and get links to the playlists, and that we can all, work together and you can vibe off my energy here. I would love to share it with you. So thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you guys in September, where we're going to be talking about, that's right, my September mood board. So until then, bye.